It's time for another Aeon Trespass Odyssey campaign update. And boy, this is a pretty intense update. The last couple of sessions have been wild, to say the least. I believe I last left off in the last campaign update. We just finished day 19. We currently are now at day 34, so we've played a healthy amount since the last time I updated you all, and it's been pretty rough. I think our campaign's going downhill. I actually don't know if we're going to be able to succeed with the way things are going. But let's go through exactly a little bit what's happened in just the past few days. When we last left off, we actually had to fight the Pursuer for the first time, which actually went really, really well. Not the Pursuer the first time. I think it was close to the Pursuer being there. We actually are about to fight the Pursuer for the second time, funny enough. So the first session, or when we get back, the first thing we have to do is to actually fight the Pursuer for the second time, which we're not really looking forward to. We have some really, really good gear we don't want to lose, so we're probably going to go in with some throwaways. We still want to try, and luckily we do have quite a bit of excess gear that's lower level or less, not as powerful, but we don't mind losing. But in terms of the state of what our Argo is at and where the story is at for us, we're still stuck on story card 2A. We're not really liking this story card. Now I'll put a picture of our current map status on the screen. You can sort of see we did take a pretty rough route, but like without really knowing where this random tile that we're looking for is going to be, it's been pretty rough because we've gone very, very long time without finding this tile that we're looking for, and we assume it's going to be around in the middle of the map, but we did go on the outskirts because we weren't really sure if there was going to be something there. And then now, of course, we actually, if you zoom in, we're actually in a dead end now, and now we have to backtrack through the Pursuer and fight him. So it's not looking good. We just finished our flipping over the Doom card as well to the next Doom card, so it's 2A. So we're tied in both terms of story versus Doom. We're both on 2A for each of them, but Doom already has 2 Doom on it. We just as well finished fighting Temenos for the second time, which we luckily got through with no major problems. I don't think we even lost anyone. We almost did. The maze tile landing on people and having them draw an obol almost got us, but luckily we won the 50-50. So yeah, we're still looking for the stupid tile. I don't know if we're gonna make it in time, but we're gonna try. In terms of hull, we're actually at max hull, max crew. It's never really been an issue until one point, which I'll get into in a second. We are at 5 out of 9 Argo Fate, so getting a little bit high up there. Hopefully we can at least pass the Pursuer fight and maybe reduce that a bit. We're at 12 Argo Knowledge, which is sort of nice. So we actually did do quite a bit of Inward Odyssey because we already have 6 progress on the 2A story, which it says that you don't have to, and obviously, minor spoilers for stuff, but it says you don't have to add any more progress. It's just that having more is better, and it can have up to 9. So we've sort of held at 6 because we figure that should be fine, and we put the rest onto Inward Odyssey. So we've made a lot of progress in Inward Odyssey, funny enough. So we've actually been able to flip over the card and work our way through the next set of Inward Odyssey stuff. We have 11 strangers. That's not good. We're probably going to get screwed over by that very, very hard. We have 2 god forms now, finally. We have Zeus and Poseidon. Haven't yet had anyone awaken yet, but we're really looking forward to doing that when that happens. We have 3 nymph summons now. We have Engine, Almathean, and I actually haven't wrote down the third one, which we got the Solitude nymph just recently. The Solitude nymph one's pretty good. We actually haven't been able to use them. Some of the requirements, like we just haven't even hit, like to use the Engine nymph, I think you have to hit like 3 hull, which we've just never had any issues with our hull, so we haven't been able to use that, which, funny enough, would actually be very, very useful here because we have to backtrack now. In terms of the evolution track, we are now just about to fight level 3 monsters. We've gotten through level 2 stuff sort of swimmingly, which I'll get into in a second, but our next timeline battle is going to have to be our first level 3. Not really looking forward to that. I think we're decently well geared, and I'll get to my gear in a second, but yeah, we have the ability to have 3 Argo abilities, which is nice because that's what we've researched so far. We have 9 out of 10 Titans. 2 of them are special Titans, or I guess 3 of them Actually, no, we all have special titans in some way or another. Not like specialty titans like the Maze Runner or something like that, but I have the Maze Walker Titan Kratos ability card. Penelope has the Dreamwalker 2 version 2 Kratos card, which adds an extra level. And then both Solong and Sursagard actually have, or Oda Zero and Sursagard have Promethean Strain and Iapedon Strain strains for the Titans. So at least we got a little bit of bonus stuff. We still haven't critted any BP3s, no cores. We don't have the technology to actually make any special Titans. So I don't know if we're going to be even able to see any of the special Titans for our first campaign, which is a little unfortunate, but we'll see what happens. In terms of the adventure track, we've actually completed our first adventure hub. We've got Hidden in Plain Sight completely done, and we're actually one away from completing Plight of the People, which I'm looking forward to. I've heard that you can get some specialty Titans from finishing an Omega box for the hub. Really hoping that's the case, but we'll see. We have a decent amount of resources, pretty low on armament. We only have 4 armament. We're up to 20 monument, 19 trireme. I'm actually not going to go through all my resources because this doesn't really matter. We're at a decent amount. We've been in flux and stuff like that, but we've luckily just hit a trader recently that we're able to adjust some things, because for a long time we were only getting trireme and we weren't getting any armament, so that's sort of nice. We also have 2 priests of Aphrodite. We actually had another priest, but we actually used one to get rid of the Maze Touch Deflection, and we also have 1 Sisyphus tier, and we actually used one for the first time in our last session. But diplomacy track, we're completely fucked in terms of diplomacy track. We're at war with the Minoans. I don't think we're ever going to get out of at war with Minoans at this point, other than using the peace card, but we're going to eventually end up back at war. We're at Denounce with Labyrinthians, not great, and we're only at +1 and still in neutral with the Horn Swarm. I don't know how y'all are doing choices and stuff, but some of our choices we think are going to go one way, and we for some reason lose diplomacy with another faction that we weren't really expecting to lose diplomacy from. So I think that's probably my biggest issue with this so far, is some of the results don't really seem to make sense when it comes to the Horn Sworn, the Horned Guard, things like that. We make a choice and it feels like we shouldn't lose anything with one faction, but we do end up anyways, and maybe we gain something with a faction we didn't really mean to. We sort of just said, screw the Minoans, and obviously that means we're going to be at war with them most of the time, but I honestly don't know how people end up getting to Allied. I actually think it might be near impossible. I think it's like, I mean, with the way that the graph is as well, like you only need 1 negative to get to unfriendly with a faction, whereas you need, +4 loyalty just to get to friendly. So it's definitely skewed to be negative with mostly everyone. We've decided to try to be as friends as possible we can with the Hornsworn, but even then, again, we've tried to make some choices that we feel like we should get positive faction with Hornsworn, and we just end up getting negative faction. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe we just don't understand what the story is. Maybe. Some of the stuff is confusing and we aren't taking notes. I think that's going to be one thing that we're going to do next time, is to actually try and take notes like we're like a tabletop role-playing session. Because there's so many stories and stuff going on, especially with the different adventure hubs, it's really difficult to keep track, and especially when we don't always get to play weekly, that can be a pretty big issue. So that is going to be that. Yeah, so we're currently on day 34. We are going to be fighting the Pursuer next. Let's get to some gear. We actually made some really good upgrades to gear since we last left off. Finally have support gear for everyone, so we are in a reasonable state when it comes to reflexively moving out of labyrinth tiles and hecaton knockbacks and things like that, especially when we also do have an Argo ability that does let us do that as well. But let's go with my character first, Telebacchus. I still currently have the Haunted and the Imprisonment Nemos cards. I have excelled at, and I just got the 2nd level in Imprisonment, which actually lets me reduce pushback by 1 too. So first level is I can reduce knockback by 2, and now I can actually reduce pushback by 1, which is very cool. So I'm playing sort of like a pseudo tank, definitely trying to make myself fighting on the front lines type of thing. I haven't leveled at all on Haunted because unfortunately, when you get nodes, unless it's by the keyword, you have to just add it to whatever is progressed further. But Haunted will essentially help me with adventure rerolls and stuff like that, and adventure hub rolls, which in the past would be very, very useful, but right now it's just sort of meh. And then I actually got my first Fated Nemos card, which is Akari, which is not the worst. I have to pretty much it's -1 will, and I have to be the last one to take my turn in a round. Something that we can play around, but it definitely makes certain things annoying. But when I actually eventually flip it over, if I'm ever the first Titan to take their turn, I'll actually lose an Argo Fate. Now, funny thing about this, I didn't always have this Fated Nemos card. One of the fights that we had earlier was against a level 2 Labyrintharos. And the very first Labyrintharos fight that we did at level 2 went super fine. We crushed him. We got, I believe, 2 special items from him. I think we got the Mino Head. We got the Mino Head from an Adventure Hub. We got the Maze from him off a critical, I think. And that's what Otis Zero is rocking. This has been a beast. It lets you ignore wound responses. And on a full miss, you get to still play stuff in. And it hits for 2 black power on top of your red power dice, which is fantastic. The only time the wound response ignoring has been screwed us over is when we're fighting Labyrintharos and this has happened twice. Otis Zero has gotten the wound response to get rid of Maze Touch Affliction, but because it ignores wound responses, I'm guessing we don't actually get to do that. So it's been sort of funny because I believe we have 2 people that still have Maze Touch, which we could use our priests for, but we're just saving the 2 other priests because maybe they'll come into use in the future. But we did that first Labyrintharos fight. It was a pushover. We were like, oh, this is easy. We fought the Labyrintharos level 2 a second time. The dice just didn't go our way, and we got slaughtered. Penelope actually ended up dying. It was our first Argo death, and she got a fate worse than death. And I lost my Maze Walker Titan, but my Argonaut still lived. However, I had I believe the despair condition on me, and when you have if you end the fight and your Titan's still alive with either the despair or the fear card, I believe you draw a Fated Nemos card. And I ended up drawing the Selfishness Fated Nemos card. Now, let's pull out the Selfishness Fated Nemos card, and let me ask you how good you think this is, or how bad. So this is the effect it gives you. You cannot place tokens in the Kratos pool. And the good side, if you do ever get it, it's just when you're about to attack and the Kratos pool is empty, you get to -1 fate, which the bonus isn't even that great, because most of the time when you're attacking, the Kratos pool is not empty. So I drew that one. And let me tell you, our response to that was, fuck that card. That is we looked through the other Fated Nemos cards too, and we firmly decided that it's the absolute worst one in the game. Looking online, it seems like that's a pretty common sentiment. It seems like some people even just take it out of the game because of how unfair it is. And I do agree it's quite a bit unfair when you look at some of the other Fated Nemos cards and you sort of gauge how bad the negative is towards you and your playstyle. Because a lot of the stuff you can play around, like Egotist, for example, is just you must be the first one to take your attack in the round. You cannot be the last one to take your turn in a Titan round. You don't benefit from opening tokens, which that one isn't as bad. I think that's fine because you can at least still benefit from other stuff and you still get positives off your bonus weapon sometimes. During the trauma draw, treat your danger as 1 higher. That stuff is all bad, but it's not like completely remove a core mechanic from the game, which is, I think, one of the reasons why it's so hated. And I've seen Marcin, who's one of the lead, or who's like the lead game designer for this, comment on the Board Game Geek forums. He said it's a narrative and mechanical staple of the game. Like it's meant to be there. There's nothing wrong with it, and it's sort of just to represent how bad the game can get. But I personally think it shouldn't be like that. I don't think 1 card out of something that you can randomly draw should completely remove a core mechanic from the game. That's just me. I do think it's a pretty unfair card. And that's what I ended up drawing. So that was how our session ended, was off that fight where we lost our first Argonaut. We lost a pretty cool Titan. I ended up drawing Selfishness, and we ended that session not really looking forward to the next ones because it was sort of just going downhill. And I believe we had to also flip the Doom card right away. So we were about to go into level 2, or not level 2, but we were about to go into fighting Temenos for a second time just off the back of that. Well, when we were sort of just talking and stuff like that, I was thinking like, oh shit, I forgot that we had Sisyphus tears. And if you don't know, Sisyphus tears are a really rare resource. We've only found 2 so far in our whole campaign, where it lets you redo fights. You get to just reset to whatever you entered the fight as. You'll get to adjust your gear and stuff like that, but you reset to the state of when you entered a fight in. And so we decided to just redo that fight. And luckily, it didn't go as bad. It still went sort of bad. I still ended up getting the Despair card because, I had to draw another Fated Nemos, but luckily I drew Akari off this one. And so that completely changed the trajectory of our campaign, because I think if I ended up stuck with Selfishness and we had to go into that Temenos fight and stuff like that, I think that just would have been keep going downhill. I think we're still trending downhill, but I think it's not as bad as it was before. Because now I still have my Maze Walker. Penelope still has her progress on her Nemos cards, which would have been one of the worst things to lose as well, because she has some pretty good Nemos cards that we want to level up. So that's sort of how the general feel of the campaign is going. So let's talk about sort of what gear we're using right now. We've definitely leveled up quite a bit in terms of gear, I think. So for myself, I actually have, we just finished building the Jawbone Axe. So I've just researched finally to build some better weapons, and we got the Jawbone Axe, which is hopefully going to help us get some cores. But especially with Arrow Barrage, being able to put opening tokens in the pool, I think that'll help us against just the fact that this doesn't have a bonus to hit, but the fact that you can get 2 black dice plus your red power dice is pretty sick. And then the nice thing is that weapon's actually one-handed, so I'm actually able to use these Shipwrecker Shield. Now we do also have copies of the Siren Shield, but I personally like the Shipwrecker Shield more. But personal preference, I think both are really, really good. I think for certain situations, being able to block is going to be better, and for other situations, being able to just get 2 free rerolls and is nice, because my reasoning is being able to get 2 free rerolls off armor or off evasion rolls just means I can use my fate elsewhere, which is nice. I still have the Ancient Siren Panoply armor, which has been fantastic, and we've actually outfitted everyone with Iapetus Lifeguards except for Otis Zero, who has the Eris Olus, to help us reflexively move. And then we also have spring harnesses on everyone except for Penelope, because Penelope actually already has, with her Someone Waiting Nemos card, that actually just lets her stand up, which is fantastic. So she has a built-in spring harness, which has been great. So we're actually able to have everyone be able to get back from being knocked down, and we're able to have everyone reflexively move, which has been super, super strong. So that's been pretty much mine. And then again, I do have the Maze Walker Titan now, or not the Maze Runner. This is sort of the lesser version, but it does get the benefit of when I'm moving through a labyrinth, I'll get +1 movement. Everything else is the same though. Well, actually, no. I get, on level 2, I can either choose between reposition 1 or a power dice reroll. So I'm pretty well set up. Haven't used the Jawbone Axe yet, but I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully, can get a lot of crits off of it. Being able to roll 2 white dice is pretty sweet. For so long, again, I showed you off the Maze. He still has the Eopin Strain. He actually hasn't changed too much, other than getting the Maze and not using the Shipwrecker Shield and the Boat Mace combo, but the Maze has been a powerhouse. For Sursagard, we have the Nail Spear still, just as a refresher. This is the Nail Spear. It's the weapon that we got off the Pursuer, but of course we don't want to bring this into our next Pursuer fight because we don't want to disable the toying trait. So I've actually given Sursagard my Whale Knives that I was using earlier, and the Whale Knives have been fantastic. They're still an extremely solid weapon, even in this stage of the game, I think, because you can potentially get so many opening tokens, which really helps you set up for anyone who has, no bonuses to their plus to hit. And then he also has the Trireme Breastplate, which has been really, really solid. You get 2 armor rolls on it, but you also get 3 gear slots. And he has those 3 filled up. So he's got the Spring Harness and the Iapetus Lifeguard, but he also, from a story event, got the Impetus Breakers, which lets him reduce knockback by 3, which is great. So overall, we're pretty well set up. And then last but not least, we have Penelope, we just built the long mast spear, and the long mast spear has been great, especially against people that do knockback or knockdown, because you get to avoid adjacency with that. It's just a solid weapon. Don't really get to leave anything behind in terms of tokens until you're 5+ rage or 5+ danger, but it's still just really consistent because you get +2 to hit, rolling 3 dice. It's overall really, really solid. And then she also has the Mino head, which we got off a adventure story, which has been very, very sweet. Being able to provoke, but not only provoke, but you get to place a diversion token in the Kratos pool, which lets someone avoid the fail response, I believe. But it also comes with an extra armor roll in it and 1 free evasion dice reroll. It's been such a good gear slot. So yeah, that is the status of our stuff. I'll quickly go through the technology. I think we're doing decently well in terms of technology. There's not too many things that we're trying to get right now other than like primordial specific stuff. So we are currently at specialist trireme weapons. We have specialized trireme weapons. We have trireme ranged weapons, trireme reach weapons, hecaton sighting, pursuer sighting, trireme armor and weapons, basic support equipment, advanced trireme weapons, siren armor, and then for structural stuff we have titan hunting, shallows navigation, anti-indoctrination philosophy, rhetoric, hope logic, Argo onboarding, diplomatic relations, excursion, propellant 2, arrow barrage, force Kratos reaction, and pursuer protocol. And those last 3 are our 3 Argo abilities as well that we're able to use that have been very, very good. And we have actually like a bunch of backup gear. Like we have 2 copies of Siren Shield. We have Teeth Kopesh, Kratos Kopis, Ballista Gun, another set of Whale Knives, Boat Mace. We have both sets of Sail Spoluses and both sets of Siren Teeth as just sort of backup and gear that we can bring into throwaway fights, which our next fight is going to be our very first throwaway fight against the next, second fight Pursuer. But we're still going to try. Who knows? We might get pretty lucky. But that's gonna be it. That's the status of our campaign so far. I don't know. It's tough to gauge on how well we're doing. I don't think we're doing that well because I think we just spent so much time going on the outskirts of the map and haven't found that tile that we need. We've found 1 tile so far that has come with a clue, but it just hasn't been the right number. Not the one that we drew, unfortunately. And the fact that we just ran into a dead end is, we should have assumed there was going to be at least a couple of dead ends in the game, but we didn't expect to hit one at that point when the pursuer was right on our ass. So yeah, we're not really looking forward to it. I believe we only need 3 or 4 Doom for that Doom card to flip over, and I think we're falling behind in terms of Doom versus progress at this point. But hopefully we don't have to backtrack too much through Doom tiles. I think we've at least laid out a path where we will still have to backtrack a little bit, but at least not through Doom tiles, and it won't be as bad. But boy, oh boy. It was really, really scary when we ended that last session off without having to use a Sisyphus tier, and I'm so glad I remembered about Sisyphus tiers before we started another session, because I can't tell you how awful it would feel to play with selfishness, just completely making your Titan pretty much useless for the most part. But that's going to be it. Hopefully you all enjoyed this second campaign update. Again, hopefully there'll be a third campaign update that won't start off with our campaign is done. But let me know in the comments below. Let me know how the state of your campaign is going. Let me know how you think we're doing, because I know that many of you have already finished cycle 1 and even cycle 2 and 3. I'm envious on how much you're all able to play. But yeah, that's going to do it for that. Thank you so much again for anyone who's checked out all my other videos. I know that most people come to watch the campaign videos for Kingdoms Forlorn and, Aeon Trespass Odyssey and stuff like that, but I do appreciate all the support, especially as well from the Arkham Horror card game. There's more of that, more Final Girls, more of everything. I got some new games to show you as well. Big thanks to anyone who checked Big thanks to everyone who checked out the Encounters Shattered Wastes video as well. That's actually a pretty fun game that I'm looking forward to making some videos on, future videos on too, because they are sending me a physical prototype of that game, and as well as a set of the acrylic standees that I can show off. And I just applied for a YouTube partner, and it's only thanks to you all for, actually enjoying my content. I didn't expect such a positive reception coming back to more regular content creation, but it's been a blast making board game content for you all. But that's going to do it. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you all enjoyed the videos. Definitely check out some of my other ones if you haven't yet, and we'll see you in the next one.